Well, welcome to our first week of our series called Stretch, which is going to be over spiritual habits. We're going to be talking about spiritual habits the next 3 weeks and how those spiritual habits can stretch us and help us grow, help us work through things, and help us grow closer to God. And so I'm excited to be able to start this series with you guys. Let me get this screen up for you so you can kind of see the slides. Sorry you weren't able to make it to youth group this week, but we hope that you can make it next week for our second week of our series. And it's up here, screen share from beginning. Okay. So, like I said, we are going through our series called Stretch, learning to stretch our faith primarily through spiritual habits. And if you were at our youth group time on Sunday, you would be being asked to do some stretches right now. We had a fun time with different stretches led by Caitlin Rydell. So if you're home watching this, feel free to do some jumping jacks, some push-ups, some arm stretches, whatever you would like to do for a few moments to kind of get things started. You could pause the video and then come back in when you're ready. Now, what are some of your exercise habits? Some of you may be thinking, well, I move my thumbs to change the channel or play video games. Some of you may be thinking, I don't have any exercise habits. You literally don't do anything. Some of you may have a pretty decent rhythm to your exercise or physical activity. Maybe some of you guys play sports or involved in some activity that you do where you're out skateboarding or rollerblading, and you do that usually once a day or a few times a week. Maybe you are very regimented and have a very strict exercise routine where you're doing push-ups, sit-ups, different type of exercise elements that go into an exercise routine, and you do that every day, and you alternate back and forth. What are some of your exercise habits? Now, like I said, we're going to be talking about spiritual habits. Spiritual habits, just like we have exercise habits that help our muscles stretch and grow, there are spiritual habits, the things that we do on a regular basis when it comes to spiritual habits. And what are some of your spiritual habits? Think about maybe a few that you do. Now, we're really going to be talking about new spiritual habits. These are the ones, what you just kind of talked about are the ones that you do, maybe the ones that you're comfortable with. But we're going to be talking about new spiritual habits. And we all know when we start something new, it helps us grow. Starting something new always helps us grow. And starting something new stretches you. And so I have a story to share. When I was in middle school, I started to play basketball with some friends just at their house, and I wasn't really that good at it. I never played basketball before, and that was the first time I was really starting to play basketball. I was pretty bad at dribbling. I could barely shoot. I didn't really know the rules of the game. But here's the thing, I was really tall. And so a lot of friends assumed I knew how to play basketball or wanted me to play basketball with them because I was tall, and in basketball, that's an advantage. So I really just stumbled through it for a few days with my friends to the point where they were sometimes making fun of me, or I just didn't really feel that good about myself because of how bad I was at basketball. So I told my mom about this. And she's like, well, there's two options. You can either continue to be made fun of and not know how to play the game, or I can sign you up to play an organized basketball league at school. And I was really against that. I didn't want to do that. I felt scared. I didn't feel like that would be something I could do. It was something unknown. I had never done organized basketball before in any sort of league. And so I was kind of worried to do that, and I didn't want to do it. But my mom pushed me to do it. She's like, no, you're going. Like, I'm signing you up. It's going to be a Tuesday night, and we're going. And you're going to learn how to play basketball. And so I went. And it was a rough start, but I started to learn how to play the game, learn the rules. And because my mom pushed me into something new in my life and got me kind of out of my comfort zone, I was stretched in my life to try this new thing. And I actually became pretty decent at it. I became okay at basketball. I wasn't like super good, but I at least knew how to play the game, and I became pretty good, and I could play with my friends down at the basketball court at the park without being made fun of, actually holding my own. So when was the time you started something new? When was the time you started something new in your life? When was the time that you did something outside of your comfort zone? Maybe you were made to do something new. Maybe you wanted to try a new sport or a new activity or a new club. Maybe it was just talking to someone where you're like, I don't want to talk to them. Like that's not comfortable for me to talk to them. So what's something that you did outside of your comfort zone? And I have a story about this. I hated flying. All growing up, I was very scared of heights and planes, and I never really wanted to go on them. And when I was in college, I was forced to start flying a plane because I went to college in Missouri, and it was a super long car ride. It was like 18 hours to get from here to Missouri. And that was my comfort zone, though, was being in a car, driving in a car. But I was forced to say, like, I hate doing this. I hate driving in this car for this long to get out to Missouri multiple times a year. And so I was forced to face my fears, get out of my comfort zone, and fly on a plane for the first time. And the first time I did, it was kind of crazy. I flew out of St. Louis in the middle of a massive snowstorm. We flew down to Atlanta, where that massive snowstorm changed into a thunderstorm and lightning. So in my first airplane ride, I saw tons of snow falling down, and I also saw lightning, heard thunder. We had turbulence, and then we landed in Philly, and the storm wasn't even close to Philly, and it was a beautiful day in Philly. So it was a crazy first plane ride. I experienced all the different weather elements, in my first plane ride. But here's the thing: I got over my fear. I pushed out of my comfort zone and realized it's something I had to do if I didn't want to keep driving back and forth. And then I was pushed even further. This past fall, back in November, I went down to Tampa Bay to a youth pastors conference. And someone there who is kind of big in the youth pastor world has a plane that lands on the water. He's a personal plane. He lands on the water, and he puts something out on social media saying, hey, anyone wants to, fly with me and hang out for a little bit, feel free to let me know. So I messaged him, and we organized time, and he took me up in his plane. And that was kind of crazy. Like, you move from a corporate plane to a personal plane. It's a little different vibe, but my mom was like totally floored when I told her about this, that I had gotten into someone's plane, and we flew around Tampa for a while. We landed in the water. We took off from the water. It's kind of crazy. I would never have done that if I never would have taken that step years ago to try to find a plane. Another thing that got me out of my comfort zone was going to my first protest. This past summer, there was the Black Lives Matter protest. And I'd never been to a protest before of any sort, and this is the one I was at in Birdsboro earlier in the summer. And that was a time for me that really, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about people, learned what it was like to be at a protest. And that was a moment for me where I really was stretched. I was kind of unsure to go to it. I didn't really know exactly why I was going to it. But it was overall a very good experience, and I learned a lot. from that experience. And so when we try these new things, we get out of our comfort zone, we go and try something new, we're always bound to learn something new. And when we do that, we grow. And so we grow in our relationship with God by starting a new spiritual habit. And we're going to be looking at a passage in Romans chapter 12, 1 through 2. Romans chapter 12, 1 through 2. It says this: Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So this passage really talks about not conforming to the patterns of this world that we get caught in, right? The comfort zone of the world, the patterns of thought that we start thinking about others and ourselves. It says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He wants us to be transformed in our mind, in our thoughts, in the way we think about ourselves, our actions. How are we changing? How are we transforming? I think about this image of a butterfly where we have a caterpillar and he goes into a cocoon. And if he stayed in that cocoon, his comfort zone, he would never morph into a butterfly. But because he gets out of that comfort zone and transforms into a butterfly, he is able to grow and experience all these amazing things. So just like that, God wants us to transform. He wants us to stretch. He wants us to grow. And so what are some spiritual habits that help people grow closer to God? Think about that for a second. What are some spiritual habits that help people grow closer to God? Well, Romans 12, 9 through 16 offer a lot of different options for spiritual habits and new ones that we can start. And as we look at this, I want you to see which ways, as we look at this, you're going to see highlighted phrases in orange. And those highlights are ones that are connected to spending time with others. We often think that spiritual habits are those that, reading your Bible and praying. But really, there's a lot of different options. So it says, don't pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection. And take delight in honoring one another. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in your confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them, but pray that God will bless them. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with each other. Don't be proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people. And don't think you know it all. Wow, there are so many options when it comes to spiritual habits. I'll go back and look at them again. Every verse is a different spiritual habit that you could try to start something new. And many of the spiritual habits that we saw involve spending time with others, which is our theme through the fall. So it's time for you to start a new spiritual habit. Here are 5 different spiritual habits that you can implement into your life. And I want you to pick one. If you're at youth group, you actually got a piece of paper and you could circle one that you would want to start. But showing up, following Jesus, loving God, loving others, and asking questions. Think about one of those and see which one is new to you. Not one that you feel comfortable with, that you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm good at asking questions, so I'm going to do that this week. No, if you're someone who maybe has a hard time loving your siblings or loving those around you, you get angry easily with people, maybe choose loving others. Something that's going to stretch you, a new habit that you'll form. So think about that. Think about something that you'd want to pick and go for it. Well, thanks so much for joining today, guys. Hopefully I'll see you at youth group next week, and have a great week.